Well, Ari Aster has done it again. I like to think I know movies and structure and story. It's very hard to surprise me. Eddington, like Ari Aster's 2019 film Midsommar, left me saying, where the hell is this going? Hey, I'm Mike. I studied film, I work in TV, and I love movies. Eddington is Ari Aster's fourth film following Hereditary, the wildly successful Midsommar, and Beau is Afraid, which starred Joaquin Phoenix. Aster is teaming up with Phoenix again for Eddington along with Pedro Pascal and Emma Stone. It explores the small-town politics in Eddington, New Mexico, just as the COVID-19 pandemic is spreading and the Black Lives Matter movement is sparking debates around the U.S. Aster uses this cultural touchstone as the match that lights the fuse in Eddington, a very small town deep in New Mexico. And this is probably my biggest concern of the film, so if you'll indulge me for a moment, because it's done a little heavy-handedly for my taste. I found it hard to believe that what we see on screen is an accurate depiction of what pandemic life was like in rural New Mexico. The insistence on wearing masks was just like scenes playing out all over urban America, sure, in cities like New York or Los Angeles, liberal enclaves like Brooklyn or Seattle, but in tiny towns like Eddington? I'm not so sure. Joaquin Phoenix plays the conservative sheriff who's facing off against the liberal mayor, Pedro Pascal. The film is sympathetic to Phoenix, who leans conservative but is being pulled further to the right by his mother-in-law, who's prone to conspiracy theories, and his wife, Emma Stone, who meets and eventually runs away with an online conspiracy theorist. The left are portrayed as hyper-woke liberals who admit that they're too privileged to be taking part in Black Lives Matter, but do anyway. Or, as in the case of two young men in town, Brian and Eric, using the movement to get into the pants of a young, politically active woman named Sarah. The film tries to paint both sides as extremist or out of touch, and I think it fails at that. It puts Phoenix and Pascal in the middle, but as I was watching, I began to wonder if Phoenix's counterbalance on the left was actually Pascal. No, I think it was Brian, the young man who was using politics to get into young Sarah's pants. Pascal as the mayor is the most prominent lefty in the film, but he's decidedly left. Brian, like Phoenix's character, is trying to navigate the changing political landscape in real time. Hear me out on this. If Phoenix starts the film out more or less in the center and is being pulled to the right, Brian starts out the film more or less the center and is being pulled further to the left. Brian is cock-blocked by his friend Eric, but Brian's interest in left-leaning politics has been stoked, and he becomes more and more involved. As Aster often does, he takes his time, sets the chess pieces just so, and when the film finally gets moving, we're in for an explosive thrill ride. And I won't spoil the ending, but my comment about Brian being Phoenix's counterbalance is proven to be true. Okay, I lied. I have another critique. These faceless, well-funded Antifa agitators were straight out of a Fox News propaganda video. Up until their arrival, the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter protests were used as motivation for the characters to spark off of one another. I think the backdrop of the political divide in the U.S. at that time would have been enough to create a very compelling movie about what drives people in small towns during times of nationwide political fissure. It would have made for a great character piece on letting your personal politics get too far. People who have been neighbors for generations are suddenly on opposite sides of the fight. But the supposed George Soros-funded mercenaries who swoop in to sow discord in this small town is every Fox News viewer's wet dream. I can imagine boomers seeing Eddington and saying, see, told you so. Eddington does have some redeeming qualities. Emma Stone's amazing and understated in her role as the sheriff's wife. Pedro Pascal delivers a great performance as Eddington's mayor. We get a whiff of a love triangle between Stone, Pascal, and Phoenix, which has never fully paid off. I would have liked to see a little more from Emma Stone in that regard. I felt like there was a ton of character backstory left on the table there. Joaquin Phoenix, as always, is transformative in his role as Sheriff Cross, and for those keeping track, there was another gratuitous, full-frontal nude shot of Phoenix's hog in Eddington. I'll say that Eddington might not be for everyone, and I worry that the message that the politics are nutty on both sides will get missed by many, and perhaps even be seen as confirmation that the anti-vaxxers and wingnuts were right all along. Overall, I didn't like Eddington as much as Midsommar. Midsommar invited us into the world of this strange cult. It was so bizarre and weird in just the right way. Someone online called Eddington a Western with cell phones instead of guns, and I quite like that. Anyway, I'd love to read your thoughts on Eddington in the comments below. Film is about community. I'm Mike, and I love movies.